Welcome back to Gun&ShotTV. This is Chris, and today we're going to be doing some plinking. Now, most of the shooting I do here is plinking, and plinking is one of those things where it's a little bit of an informal thing. It's easier probably to say what it's not than what it is. I mean, usually it's not shooting at targets, it's not going tactical and, trying to shoot for a super small group or anything like that. It's more about just having fun at the range. Sadly, plinking, if you've watched my video about gallery guns, it's kind of like shooting galleries. It's harder and harder to find, harder to do anymore, just because most plinking leaves some debris. We'll go through some of the different targets, and the neat thing is coming up with things that maybe don't leave as much litter and are easier to clean up. But the reason specifically, I've been thinking about doing a plinking video and getting some targets together for a while, but the reason I'm doing a specific one today is Ruger said they were going to have a contest to go to their factory and check out the assembly line for 1022s and possibly win a 1022. And so I was like, well, that's great, because it gives me the reason to get off my butt and to dig out my 1022s. I shoot a lot of different guns, and I have a lot of guns, so sometimes, the things like my 1022 that I shoot a lot, I don't make a lot of videos of just because it's pretty common. I've done a couple videos on them. But today I've got a couple different 1022s I'm going to take out to the range. This is my 1022 Takedown. This is pretty much stock, except for I added a couple of lanyard swivels, or sling swivels, pardon, and some tech sights. This is my 50th anniversary 1022. I actually gave this to my wife, which explains the pink sling. Now, this is the one that they made as a contest, and pretty much it's all set up for Appleseed. In this case, it's got a giant scope on it as well, but it's got peeps and it's got a flash hider to keep the muzzle out of the mud, stuff like that. And then this is actually probably one of my favorite guns. This is a 1970s 1022 that I got from a friend. Well, he bought it new and he had it for quite a number of years, and he did all kinds of neat stuff like shaving down the stock and recontouring it and put a lot of really nice little touches into it. And it's one of my favorite guns. It's probably one of the first guns that I bought by myself. I bought it off my friend, and so it's always something special when I take this one out to shoot it, and I really enjoy it. And it just goes to show just how great these rifles are. One really neat thing about the 1022s is they have the removable box magazine. A lot of your cheaper 22s don't, but with Ruger, you've got your 10-round box mag. Easy to load, they're cheap, you can get them pretty much anywhere, and they actually work really well. And then with 1022s, you can also get these banana mags. Now, Ruger has started making their own, which are really nice. These are some old Butler Creek ones that have not broken yet, and I've had them for quite a while, so I just keep using them until they give up the ghost. So the neat thing is you can even get these mag loaders, which allow you to put the ammo in, shake it, it aligns it, and then you can just crank it and load those banana-shaped magazines really fast. So you can go out to the range with your plinking targets and your magazines and load them all up and kind of just have fun. I mean, I think that's the really important part about plinking that a lot of people miss when they try and turn firearms into, you got to always be training, you always got to be tactical, or you always got to be about forming the best groups. That's not what plinking's about. Plinking's just about having fun. So with that in mind, I've got my 1022s, I've got my magazines all loaded up and ready to go. I've got a whole bunch of different plinking targets, and hopefully you give these a shot. Now obviously there's some of your standard ones. For example, most people shoot pop cans. So I've got a 12-pack of Grape soda. I think it's like $2 at Walmart for a 12-pack, somewhere right around there. So we'll take these down to the range. The one drawback that I really don't like about soda cans is they do leave a lot of mess. So obviously if you're at a public range, you're going to have to clean all that up. My personal range, I kind of just let stuff go, and every once in a while I'll shovel it to the side and then take it in for scrap. But we'll shoot some of these and show you what that looks like. So our next plinking target is going to be steel. Now I've got some steel spinners, and I've got some steel Bounceback torso targets, and I've got some little diamond steel Bouncebacks. And these are nice. The one thing with steel, you got to be careful. It can throw stuff back, so always make sure eye and ear and all that stuff, and stay back just to make sure you don't have any splashback. of stuff. It's pretty minimal if you're using approved targets they're designed to be targets, but you know, you always worry about that. And some people will go plinking in like rock pits and stuff, and that's another dangerous area because you can have, you know, if you're in a gravel pit, you could have ricochets. So always wear eyes and ears, and do be mindful you're backing here. Now, like I said, I'm going to be back when I shoot these, so everything should be pretty safe. But like I said, always be safe. So another fun target that you can shoot at when you're plinking at a range would be golf balls. Now you can just kind of throw them out on the ground as long as you have a decent backstop, because it can ricochet, but throw them out on the ground and plink at them, or you can put them up on tees. I'm going to put them up on tees. Now this is another one, leaves a mess. You're going to have to clean it up or chase down these balls if you're shooting somewhere where you have to worry about it. But it's fun, it's reactive, they're pretty easy to see because they're white, they stick out pretty nice, and they're pretty challenging depending on how far back you're standing. Now my next target, I got these playing cards. You can get, I think, like 10 or 12 packs. I think it was like $5 online from Amazon or eBay or places like that, and they're just cheap paper playing cards. There's nothing nice about these. They're not the plastic coating, but for the price you get 52 little targets. So these are kind of a neat thing. I've seen different people set up different kind of games and fun things to shoot at. You can set them up, like nail them to a board and kind of play by shooting the cards that you want in your hand or something like that. I've seen people do that, where you alternate shots and take the card you shot down, and the next guy has to, and the best hand at the end of the match wins a prize or something like that. You can also do some tricks with them, like shooting them in half and stuff. That's a little bit more accurate than we're going to worry about for plinking. But something I think is really fun is you can go through, and I probably should have done this to start with. You can pick out a card like an ace, let's say, that has a design on it. Like this is the ace of diamonds here. Now, if you nail this up to a board, you can plink at it and, you know, let's say 10 shots, and see if you can knock out that center diamond, or pretty much anything you can come up with. These, like I said, they're so cheap, and it's something that doesn't really leave a big mess, and you can just take the cards off your backer when you're done. So we'll try that at the range and see how that looks. In that case, I actually shot the target stand apart. So that's another thing to be wary of if you're shooting in the same small area. So we've touched on cleaning up your range and, you know, making sure everything's picked up after. Now there's some targets you can plink at that don't really require a lot of cleanup. For example, you can get target boards that will hold clays. Now you can get biodegradable clays that will pretty much, after they're out in the rain, pretty much fall apart. And those are kind of nice. They still leave a little bit of mess, and I think you still have to be careful if you have livestock and have to worry about animals eating them. But other than that, they're pretty efficient targets. They're cheap, they're fun to shoot, they're reactive. So I've got a board, we'll set some targets up and we'll shoot them. So one of my next targets that I think is fun, it's also biodegradable. You don't really have to worry about cleaning up. There's nothing really left when you're done shooting, is eggs. Now these are ones that actually are past their expiration date, but occasionally we'll have a neighbor who raises chickens and gets eggs. They'll have some eggs that maybe they left out too long, so they're worried about selling them. Or sometimes you'll just come across some eggs that are super cheap. I don't really like wasting food, but sometimes they're stuff that's not edible or you're worried about eating. So I have no qualms about shooting food that no one's going to eat anyways, and I'd rather shoot it than throw it away. This way the worms and everything can eat the shells and enjoy. So I'm going to set these up on little golf tees, and we'll plink them right off the golf tees. So for another idea for something you can shoot at, I was at a warehouse store that sells to restaurants and stuff, and they had this box of ice cream cones that was kind of ripped open here and beat up a little bit and expired. So it was on clearance for $1. Now this is another thing I can shoot. I don't have to worry about cleaning up. Animals will eat whatever's left, and they should be pretty reactive and pop apart. And, you know, kind of a neat, fun plinking target. There's 112 in the box. I can't imagine the box was that expensive, even brand new. So that's kind of a neat idea. So as you can see, there's all kinds of stuff you can plink at, and your imagination is really the only limit to it. I mean, I've seen people plink at little wood blocks. If you know somebody does woodworking, you can get their extra scraps. I've seen people plink at the little squares of chalk you'd use for a pool cue. Those are pretty nice. They reactive. They make a little blue poof when you shoot them. I've seen people set up animal crackers and kind of go for an animal cracker safari or kind of low budget silhouette shooting if that's more your thing. And you know, like I said, the real trick is a lot of this stuff can be messy and can leave stuff, so try and be mindful and use targets that are going to make sure that people can go plinking in the future. Because I know when I've had people over, you know, some people are like, oh, can I shoot glass, can I shoot this? And you know, if you're not going to go out and pick up and clean up all that stuff, don't shoot it, because wherever you're shooting has to. There are a couple ranges in my area that have plinking pits and you can shoot at things besides glass. But generally, after a while, they all end up getting shut down just because it's a huge liability and a lot of people don't clean up, and it's just a giant mess. One neat thing you can do if you're at a range and you're going to clean up stuff anyways, pick up old 12 gauge holes and set those up on the block and shoot at those. and then clean them up when you're done. Now you're doing a little bit of extra cleaning up for the range and helping them out and having a good time. So with that in mind, hopefully you enjoyed this video. Make sure you comment. Tell me other things that you like to shoot when you're plinking. Maybe make some videos shooting stuff and message me and we'll throw them in the comments and I'll take a peek at them. But for Gun&ShotTV, this is Chris. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.